James Coburn was known for being one of the coolest, most laid-back actors in Hollywood. But there was one co-star who managed to get under his skin like no one else: Yul Brynner. Their tension on set wasn't just a minor clash of personalities. Behind the scenes, things got heated. And Coburn never forgot it. So what really happened between these two Hollywood legends? Join us as we uncover the story behind one of classic cinema's most intense off-screen feuds. From Nebraska Dust to California Dreams, James Harrison. Coburn III was born on August 31st, 1928, in the small town of Laurel, Nebraska. Life in Laurel was quiet, and like many small towns in the Midwest during that time, it was deeply affected by the Great Depression. Money was tight, jobs were scarce, and families had to work hard just to get by. Growing up in this environment shaped young James in important ways. He learned to stay strong even when things were tough. He saw how his parents dealt with hardships, and that gave him a quiet strength that he carried with him for the rest of his life. James's early years weren't filled with big city lights or dreams of Hollywood. Instead, they were marked by survival and simplicity. But even in a place like Laurel, Coburn started showing signs of a creative mind. He had a deep curiosity about the world and loved listening to stories, whether they came from books, the radio, or people around him. As the country began to recover, his family made a big move that would change everything. They relocated to Compton, California, during his youth. At the time, Compton was a growing suburb with more opportunities than the rural Midwest. The move exposed Coburn to a completely new way of life: bigger schools, more diversity, and access to the entertainment world that was booming in nearby Los Angeles. It was in Compton that Coburn's love for performance and storytelling really began to grow. He started to explore acting, becoming more interested in how people express emotions and tell stories through their voice, body language, and presence. The more he learned, the more he wanted to be a part of it. He didn't just want to watch movies, he wanted to be in them. Before he could chase any career dreams, though, duty called. In the early 1950s, Coburn served in the United States Army during the Korean War. He wasn't sent to the front lines as a soldier in combat. Instead, he worked as a truck driver and also served as a disc jockey for the Army's radio service. While it might not sound like the most exciting job, it played an important role in keeping the troops informed and entertained. Serving in the military had a deep impact on Coburn. It taught him responsibility, patience, and discipline. Waking up early, following orders, and staying focused on a task were all part of the job. These habits helped him later in his acting career, where long hours, strict schedules, and teamwork were also required. He also learned how to communicate clearly and confidently, skills that would later help him become a strong performer with a commanding screen presence. The military also gave Coburn time to think about what he really wanted in life. He realized he didn't want a regular job or an ordinary life. He wanted to tell stories. He wanted to act. Once his service ended, Coburn was ready to chase that dream. Coming back to civilian life, he didn't waste time. With his growing interest in acting, combined with the discipline he had developed in the Army, he was ready to take the next step. He enrolled in Los Angeles City College, where he began studying acting seriously. This was only the beginning of what would become a long and fascinating career. Coburn's early years, from Nebraska to California to the Korean War, were filled with lessons, challenges, and moments of discovery that shaped the man he would become. These experiences gave him the strength, focus, and passion that he would soon bring to the big screen. Inside Hollywood's inner circle. When James Coburn finished his service in the Army, he returned to civilian life with a clear goal in mind. He wanted to become an actor. The discipline and focus he developed during his time in the military gave him the tools to take this goal seriously. Instead of jumping straight into auditions, or trying to land a role without training, Coburn decided to build a strong foundation first. He enrolled at Los Angeles City College, one of the many schools in Southern California that offered acting and performance programs. At LA City College, Coburn began to study the craft of acting more deeply. This wasn't just a hobby or a casual interest for him anymore. He committed to learning everything he could about what it meant to truly perform, to step into someone else's shoes and make it feel real. The school gave him the chance to work in theater, learn techniques, and study scripts. It was also a place where he met other people who shared his dreams, helping him build connections and grow as an artist. But one of the most important steps in Coburn's acting journey came after his time at college. He decided to continue his training with one of the most respected acting teachers of the 20th century, Stella Adler. Stella Adler was a legendary acting coach known for working with many of Hollywood's biggest names, including Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro. She was part of a group that helped shape what we now call method acting, a style that focuses on bringing deep emotion and authenticity to performances. Under her guidance, Coburn didn't just learn how to deliver lines. He learned how to think like a character, how to feel their emotions, and how to bring depth to every moment on screen or on stage. Training with Adler helped Coburn unlock something powerful. He began to stand out, not just because of his tall, lean frame and rugged good looks, but because of the way he carried himself and the quiet intensity he brought to his work. His voice was another standout feature. Deep, gravelly, and full of presence, it was a voice people remembered. Even in a room full of actors, Coburn had something special. By the 1950s, Coburn was ready to step into the spotlight. He began working in television, which at the time was a fast-growing medium filled with opportunity. It was the golden age of TV, and there were many shows looking for new talent. Coburn appeared in a wide variety of series, usually in guest roles. These early performances helped him gain valuable on-camera experience. He worked on westerns, crime dramas, and science fiction shows, whatever roles came his way. Each appearance helped him grow more comfortable in front of the camera and more skilled at bringing characters to life. Through the late 1950s and early 1960s, Coburn started getting noticed by directors, producers, and casting agents. People in the industry saw his potential. He didn't have to try to be the loudest or the flashiest. His strength came from being calm, cool, and controlled. When he was on screen, audiences paid attention, even when he wasn't speaking. His presence was magnetic, and that's something you can't teach. Then came the role that changed everything. Britt in The Magnificent Seven. Coburn was cast as the quiet, knife-throwing cowboy, one of a group of 7 gunmen hired to protect a small village. It was a supporting role, but he made it unforgettable. Britt didn't say much, but every move he made had purpose. Every look, every gesture told a story. Coburn's character stood out because of how simple yet strong he was. In a cast filled with big personalities like Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen, Coburn held his own without trying to steal the spotlight. He played Britt as a man of few words but sharp skills. His scenes with the knife-throwing were performed with steady hands and cool focus. The role captured exactly what people would come to love about Coburn: a calm exterior with a hint of danger underneath. The Magnificent Seven became a classic, and Coburn's performance helped make that happen. It was the beginning of his rise in Hollywood. After years of studying, training, and working hard in television, he finally had a film role that showed the world what he could do. From this moment on, Coburn's career took off in a big way. 2 wives, 1 mystery. James Coburn was known for his cool, confident screen presence and that unforgettable toothy grin. But behind the scenes, he lived a much more private and quiet life. While he became a star in Hollywood, he worked hard to keep his personal world away from the spotlight. Family, love, and stability mattered deeply to him, even if he didn't speak about it much in public. His 2 marriages tell the story of how he balanced fame with personal connection and how, later in life, he used his success to help others. James Coburn married Beverly Kelly in 1959, right around the time his career was gaining serious momentum. The timing wasn't easy. His schedule was becoming more demanding as he landed bigger roles in Hollywood, but their marriage gave him something he didn't have on set: stability and support. Beverly became a steady presence in his life, helping create a peaceful home environment, while Coburn worked in the often chaotic world of show business. The couple had 2 children together, a son and a daughter. Although Coburn didn't often speak publicly about his kids, those who knew him say they were very important to him. Despite his reputation as a laid-back, tough guy on screen, Coburn cared deeply about being a good father. His family helped him stay grounded during his busiest years in the 1960s and 1970s, years that saw him star in hit films like The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, and Our Man Flint. During that time, Coburn was becoming a major Hollywood name. He was attending red carpet events, working with big directors, and traveling often for film shoots. Still, his marriage with Beverly and their family life helped keep things balanced. While some stars chased the Hollywood lifestyle non-stop, Coburn valued his home life and made time for his wife and children whenever he could. However, after 20 years of marriage, Coburn and Beverly divorced in 1979. The reason behind the split was never publicly discussed in detail. Both Coburn and Kelly kept the matter private, avoiding drama or press attention. For Coburn, it marked the end of a major chapter in his personal life. The divorce was quiet but significant. It was the closing of a long and important period that had seen him rise from a promising young actor to a full-fledged movie star. More than a decade after his divorce from Beverly Kelly, Coburn found love again. In 1993, he married Paula Murad, a Brazilian-American actress and former television host. Their wedding wasn't just an ordinary ceremony. It was held in Versailles, France, a romantic and elegant location that reflected their shared love for beauty, culture, and history. Their relationship was built on mutual respect, shared interests, and genuine companionship. Friends who knew them said the couple was warm and deeply connected. Paula was not only his partner in life, but also someone who stood by him during a challenging phase in his health. At the time they married, Coburn was still dealing with the painful effects of rheumatoid arthritis, a condition that had sidelined his career for several years. Paula became an important part of his support system. What made their relationship stand out was how much they worked together on causes that mattered to them. Both James and Paula believed in giving back and supporting the things they cared about, especially the arts, education, and medical research. In 2002, they created the James and Paula Coburn Foundation, a nonprofit organization that reflected their values and interests. The foundation was set up to fund projects related to education, the arts, and health, with a special focus on arthritis research. This was deeply personal for Coburn, who had struggled with the disease for many years and knew how painful and limiting it could be. He wanted to help others going through the same thing. The foundation also provided support for underprivileged students, independent filmmakers, and artistic programs that often struggle to find financial backing. The Coburn Foundation became one of the most meaningful parts of their later years together. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about helping people and supporting creativity, learning, and healing. Paula continued to manage and support the foundation even after Coburn passed away. showing just how committed both of them were to the work they had started together. In his second marriage, Coburn found not just a wife, but a partner in every sense of the word. They shared a deep bond, worked on meaningful projects, and enjoyed each other's company away from the spotlight. Their marriage came at a time when Coburn was taking fewer roles and focusing more on quality than quantity in his work. He was able to enjoy this slower phase of life with someone he truly trusted and loved. Next, we'll look at how Coburn's closest friendships, especially with Bruce Lee, brought unexpected wisdom and inspiration into his life. Bruce Lee's secret student, James Coburn, met Bruce Lee in the 1960s, at a time when both men were becoming well-known in their respective fields. Lee was more than just a martial artist. He was a thinker, a teacher, and a philosopher. Coburn was immediately drawn to Lee's energy, focus, and ideas. What began as a student-teacher relationship quickly turned into a deep and meaningful friendship. Coburn became one of Bruce Lee's students, training in martial arts under Lee's direct guidance. He wasn't interested in learning just to fight. He wanted to understand the mental and spiritual side of martial arts. Lee's style, called Jeet Kune Do, was not just about punches and kicks. It was about adapting to life, being flexible in thinking, and finding personal truth through movement. This spoke deeply to Coburn, who had always been thoughtful and curious by nature. The two men spent many hours together, not just training, but talking about philosophy, health, self-discipline, and Eastern thought. They often discussed Taoism, Buddhism, and the importance of inner balance. Bruce Lee introduced Coburn to new ways of thinking about the body, the mind, and how the two are connected. These conversations would leave a lasting impression on Coburn and help shape how he faced challenges later in life. In 1973, Bruce Lee died unexpectedly at the age of just 32. His passing was a huge shock to Coburn. The loss of such a close friend, someone he admired deeply, was incredibly painful. But Coburn didn't hesitate when asked to be a part of Lee's funeral. On July the 25th, 1973, Coburn served as one of the pallbearers at Bruce Lee's funeral in Seattle. Alongside other close friends like Steve McQueen and Dan Inosanto, Coburn helped carry Lee's casket in a moment that was both public and deeply personal. He later described it as one of the most emotional experiences of his life. Even decades after Lee's death, Coburn continued to speak highly of him in interviews. He called Bruce a genius, not just in martial arts, but in life. Coburn often credited Lee with helping him understand himself better, stay focused, and find meaning in life's struggles. The way he handled his illness, returned to acting, and stayed mentally strong, all had roots in what he had learned from Bruce. Their friendship was one of shared wisdom, strength, and growth, a connection that reached far beyond fame or Hollywood. For Coburn, Bruce Lee wasn't just a teacher or a friend. He was a guide, and his lessons stayed with Coburn until the end of his life. Arthritis and a glorious comeback. By the late 1970s, James Coburn had already built a reputation as one of Hollywood's coolest and most distinctive stars. But just as his career seemed to be moving forward at full speed, something unexpected and devastating happened. He was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. It was a life-changing moment that would challenge him physically, emotionally, and professionally. Rheumatoid arthritis is a serious autoimmune disease. It causes the body's immune system to mistakenly attack the joints, leading to severe inflammation, pain, and swelling. In Coburn's case, the condition hit him hard. He began experiencing constant pain in his hands, shoulders, and legs. His once strong and agile body began to weaken. Over time, the pain became chronic, and his joints became distorted. He eventually lost almost all mobility, making everyday tasks difficult and acting nearly impossible. The disease didn't just affect his physical health. It also took a toll on his career. By the early 1980s, Coburn was forced to step away from acting. For nearly a decade, he was largely absent from the big screen. One of the most active and charismatic actors of the 1960s and 1970s now struggled just to get out of bed or walk across a room. He spoke later about how painful and isolating that period was, especially for someone used to living a very physical and energetic life. The disease had taken away not only his strength, but also a big part of his identity. But James Coburn was not the kind of man to give up easily. Even when traditional treatments and medications offered little relief, he kept searching for ways to heal. Eventually, he discovered MSM, a natural sulfur compound sometimes used in alternative medicine to treat joint pain and inflammation. It wasn't a miracle cure, but it helped Coburn significantly reduce his pain and regain some of his mobility. Alongside MSM, Coburn also embraced holistic approaches. He looked into diet, supplements, and relaxation techniques. He leaned on what he had learned from his longtime friend Bruce Lee. Ideas about breathing, movement, and inner strength. These practices didn't just help his body, they also supported his mind. Slowly, he began to feel better. Over time, he was even able to start acting again. His recovery didn't happen overnight. It took years of patience, dedication, and effort. But his return to health and to Hollywood was nothing short of remarkable. After almost a decade in the shadows, James Coburn was finally ready to step back into the spotlight. In 1997, Coburn took on one of the most powerful roles of his career in the film Affliction, directed by Paul Schrader. In the movie, he played Glenn Whitehouse, a cruel alcoholic father whose violent behavior had left deep scars on his son, played by Nick Nolte. It was a dark, intense role, very different from the charming, smooth characters Coburn had played earlier in his career. Coburn's performance was raw and haunting. He brought to the character a quiet rage and emotional depth that stunned critics and audiences. It was clear that his own life experiences, his pain, his struggles, and his long journey back to health had given him a new kind of power as an actor. For many, it felt like Coburn was channeling years of pain and resilience into the role. The performance earned him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in 1999. When his name was called at the Oscars, it was a moment of triumph, not just for his performance in Affliction, but for everything he had overcome. At 70 years old, after being nearly forgotten by the industry, James Coburn had won Hollywood's highest honor. It was a deeply emotional victory, and one that even he admitted was a long time coming. Accepting the award, Coburn looked happy, proud, and deeply grateful. He didn't talk much about the hard road he had traveled, but everyone watching knew what it had taken for him to get there. The Oscar wasn't just about one role. It was about his entire journey, from being sidelined by illness to returning stronger than ever. This moment marked the peak of his comeback, and it reminded the world why James Coburn was such a respected and admired actor. He had proven that talent, courage, and perseverance could win against even the toughest challenges. Gone without warning. On November 18, 2002, James Coburn passed away at the age of 74. His death came suddenly and quietly in the comfort of his home in Beverly Hills, California. After decades of fame, struggle, comeback, and reflection, his final moments were peaceful and filled with love. A fitting end to a life that had seen both great highs and great challenges. That evening, Coburn was at home with his wife, Paula Murad Coburn. The two were sharing one of their favorite pastimes, listening to music. Music had always been a passion of James's. It calmed him, inspired him, and gave him joy. Paula later described that they were simply sitting together, enjoying the moment, when Coburn suddenly collapsed. He had suffered a massive heart attack. Despite the quick arrival of emergency services and efforts to save him, Coburn could not be revived. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, one of Los Angeles' most respected hospitals. There, he was officially pronounced dead. The news of his passing spread quickly, and who shocked many in Hollywood and beyond. Coburn had recently enjoyed a powerful return to acting, and had seemed to be doing well. His sudden death was not something anyone expected. Paula, in the days after his death, spoke publicly about what happened. Her account of Coburn's final moments painted a picture of serenity and love. She said that he died in her arms, and that the moment, while tragic, was also beautiful in its own way. There was no chaos, no fear, just the two of them, sharing quiet time together. That memory brought her comfort, and she hoped fans would take comfort in it too. Though he had lived a private life in his final years, Coburn's sudden departure still hit hard. His wife Paula later shared how much peace he had found in recent years, how proud he was of the work they did together through their foundation, and how grateful he was to have experienced love, health, and personal success after so many years of physical pain and professional struggles. Onset feud with Yul Brynner. Even though The Magnificent Seven became one of the most iconic westerns of all time, things behind the scenes weren't as smooth as the finished product might suggest. For James Coburn, one of the biggest challenges during the filming wasn't the action scenes or long hours. It was dealing with his co-star, Yul Brynner. From the very beginning of the shoot, tension between Coburn and Brynner was obvious. Brynner was already a major star by then, best known for The King and I, which had earned him an Academy Award. With his success came a huge ego. He demanded top billing, perfect camera angles, and unquestioned control over how he appeared in every scene. He had strong opinions on lighting, blocking, and even how other actors should deliver their lines. For a film that relied on ensemble chemistry, his attitude became a serious problem. James Coburn, still early in his film career at the time, found Brynner's behavior frustrating. Coburn was known for being easygoing and respectful. He didn't care much for drama or ego trips, so working with someone who constantly tried to dominate every scene didn't sit well with him. Coburn was trying to bring quiet strength to his role as Britt, the knife-throwing cowboy, and Brynner's constant need for attention didn't make that easy. One moment that really captured the mood on set came during a group scene. Steve McQueen, another rising star, had a habit of doing small things to draw attention to himself, even when he wasn't speaking. He might fiddle with his hat or shift his posture just enough to pull the audience's eye away from the main action. Brynner noticed this, and he lost it. He stormed off the set, furious that McQueen was stealing the spotlight. Coburn wasn't impressed. He reportedly rolled his eyes and muttered under his breath that Brynner was the biggest damn baby in the West. That one comment said a lot about how Coburn felt. He didn't have patience for that kind of behavior, especially when it slowed down production or disrupted the team effort needed to make a good film. As filming went on, the divide between Brynner and the other actors only grew. Both Coburn and McQueen were clearly annoyed by Brynner's obsession with how he looked and his constant need for control. Coburn preferred working with actors who were grounded, like Charles Bronson or Robert Vaughn, people who focused on their craft, not their ego. Though Coburn rarely bad-mouthed anyone publicly, those close to him knew just how much he disliked Brynner. In later interviews, when The Magnificent Seven came up, Coburn often avoided talking about Brynner in detail, and when he did, his words were short and sharp. He once referred to Brynner as a royal pain in the ass, making it very clear that the grudge had never faded. Despite all the tension behind the scenes, the film went on to become a classic. Ironically, the very conflict that annoyed Coburn so deeply may have added to the on-screen tension that helped make the movie so memorable. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next story on legendary Hollywood celebs.